Have you ever stopped to think about how many decisions in your life were truly your own? From childhood, we are taught to follow predetermined paths, meet expectations, and seek external validation. But what if all of that was just a distraction? Imagine standing in an airport. In front of you are two options: a safe flight to a familiar destination, where everything is predictable but full of compromises, or a ticket to an unknown place, where you have total control over your journey. Which one would you choose? It seems like a simple question, but in real life, most people go for the first option, out of fear of the unknown. But what if that fear is the very thing keeping you from experiencing the best years of your life? Society has always sold us the idea that happiness comes from sharing life with someone, following established norms, and avoiding solitude at all costs. But what if that very narrative is what's been keeping you trapped? What if true freedom isn't about finding someone to complete your life, but about rediscovering who you truly are? Here's the question few people dare to ask. How much of your life really belongs to you? How much freedom do you actually have to live on your own terms, without bending to the expectations of others? What you're about to discover could completely change the way you see independence, happiness, and the true meaning of living without restraints. Stay with me until the end, because what comes next might just be the key to the most liberating chapter of your life. The power of personal freedom. Why autonomy in later life is the ultimate liberation. There comes a moment in life when you realize that the most valuable thing you can possess is not material wealth, status, or even companionship. It's freedom. Freedom to wake up when you want. Freedom to make your own decisions without compromise. Freedom to shape your days according to your desires, without explanation, without guilt, without limits. But for decades, society has conditioned us to believe that happiness is only real when shared, that a life without a romantic partner is incomplete, and that solitude is something to be feared. That narrative, however, is not only outdated, it's one of the greatest illusions ever imposed on us. And as more and more people reach their later years, a radical shift is taking place. Individuals are choosing independence over commitment, peace over compromise, and authenticity over forced companionship. For the first time in their lives, they are discovering what it truly means to be free. No more adjusting their schedules to accommodate someone else's needs. No more suppressing their own desires to maintain harmony. No more feeling like a supporting character in someone else's story. Autonomy in later life isn't just about avoiding bad relationships. It's about reclaiming yourself. It's about finally having the power to decide what truly matters to you, without anyone else imposing their expectations or limitations. Psychologists have long studied the impact of autonomy on well-being, and the results are staggering. A groundbreaking study from Harvard Medical School found that individuals who maintain control over their own lives experience significantly lower levels of stress and depression, leading to greater overall life satisfaction. In fact, data suggests that seniors who remain independent are not only happier, but actually live longer than those who feel trapped in unfulfilling relationships. Researchers attribute this to the fact that personal agency, the ability to make one's own decisions, is one of the most crucial factors in maintaining mental and emotional health. When you are no longer forced to conform to someone else's expectations, your mind is lighter, your body is healthier, and your spirit is unburdened. But let's take a moment to step away from the science and look at real life. Think about all the people you've met who have stayed in relationships out of obligation rather than love. How many of them are truly happy? How many have spent years in silent resentment, tolerating things they would never accept if they had the choice? How many have convinced themselves that enduring emotional exhaustion is simply part of the deal when it comes to long-term relationships? Now contrast that with the stories of those who chose a different path, the people who, despite societal pressure, embraced solitude and discovered a world of endless possibilities. They travel when they want. They pursue their passions without restriction. They cultivate friendships based on mutual respect rather than necessity. They live on their own terms rather than bending to the will of another. This is not about demonizing relationships or suggesting that love has no place in later life. Love is a beautiful, transformative force, but only when it is genuine, liberating, and free of suffocating obligations. The problem arises when people believe that they must be with someone to be fulfilled, leading them to settle for relationships that drain them rather than elevate them. Too often, individuals find themselves sacrificing their own identity just to keep a relationship intact. They suppress their dreams, mute their voices, and gradually become shadows of the people they once were, all because they fear the unknown alternative of being alone. But here's the truth. Solitude is not emptiness. Solitude is space. Space to think, to grow, to evolve. It's a canvas, blank and limitless, where you can paint the life you've always wanted. And that life, it doesn't require anyone else's approval. It doesn't need to be validated by external expectations. It is yours and yours alone. Imagine waking up tomorrow with no obligations, no emotional weight dragging you down, no compromises to make. Imagine making choices based purely on what you want, rather than what someone else expects from you. Imagine being able to reinvent yourself at any moment without resistance, without friction, without guilt. That is what true autonomy feels like. That is the power of choosing yourself. But here's the real question. Does freedom alone guarantee happiness? If you've spent your whole life in relationships, could solitude actually be the missing piece of the puzzle? Or does it come with its own set of challenges? What if I told you that the greatest gift of independence isn't just personal freedom? It's something even more valuable. Something that can transform not only the way you live, but also the way you feel, think, and experience the world. Stay with me because what comes next is a revelation that will change everything. Freedom is liberating. For the first time, you don't have to ask for permission to live life on your terms. No more compromises, no more obligations dictated by others. Just you, in full control of your own path. But here's the real question. Does freedom alone guarantee happiness? You break free from expectations, from the silent weight of conformity. But what about peace? Because if your mind is still burdened by stress, anxiety, and lingering doubts, are you truly free? Think about it. What good is independence if your thoughts are restless? If your emotions still feel like a battlefield? If you wake up every morning carrying the weight of unresolved worries? That's why what comes next might be the missing piece you've been searching for. Because while most people spend their entire lives chasing freedom, very few realize that the real luxury, the one thing more valuable than autonomy, is peace. Imagine waking up not just free, but completely at ease. No tension, no overthinking, no silent battles dragging you back into the past. Just clarity, serenity, and a deep sense of contentment. That's what we're about to explore. And trust me, this next revelation could change everything. If this message resonates with you, show your support by hitting the like button right now. It's a simple gesture, but it helps this video reach more people who need to hear this. Now let's dive into the next chapter, because what comes next might just redefine the way you see happiness and fulfillment. The price of peace. Why mental clarity is the greatest luxury in later life. There is something profoundly underrated about waking up in the morning and feeling at peace. No tension. No underlying stress creeping in before the day even begins. No silent resentment festering in the background of your daily routine. Just pure, uninterrupted mental clarity. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people spend their entire lives without ever experiencing this level of peace. They endure years, sometimes decades, of emotional exhaustion, endless conflicts, and constant adjustments in the name of love or companionship. Yet when they finally break free, they come to a shocking realization. Peace was the one thing they were missing all along. For many, relationships become emotional battlegrounds. Small disagreements escalate into endless arguments. Routine habits turn into sources of resentment, and the need for compromise slowly erodes personal happiness. It's no coincidence that research from the Journal of Health and Social Behavior found that individuals in high-conflict relationships experience significantly higher levels of stress, anxiety, and even physical health issues. The study highlights that stress hormones like cortisol remain chronically elevated in people trapped in unhappy relationships, increasing the risk of heart disease, high blood pressure, and premature aging. Source. But let's be brutally honest here. We've all seen it. The couple that stays together not out of love but out of habit. The person who never laughs anymore, drained by the weight of emotional labor. The quiet suffering of someone who knows their relationship is over, yet stays for convenience or fear of change. What no one tells you is that the energy spent navigating these conflicts, avoiding unnecessary fights, and constantly negotiating happiness, is energy that could be redirected toward personal peace and fulfillment. Now, imagine a life without that emotional baggage. No more walking on eggshells. No more explaining yourself. No more feeling guilty for simply existing in a way that doesn't conform to someone else's expectations. Solitude in later life isn't just about independence. It's about the luxury of peace. It's the ability to sit in your own company and feel whole. It's knowing that you can structure your days around what brings you joy, rather than what prevents conflict. It's the realization that happiness doesn't have to be conditional. It can exist in the simple, quiet moments of life, free from the emotional turbulence of a relationship that no longer serves you. But what about loneliness? That's the biggest fear people have when they think about embracing solitude. The idea that without a partner, life will be empty. But what if that belief is completely wrong? What if I told you that loneliness isn't about the absence of people? It's about the absence of meaningful connection. And here's the kicker. You don't need a romantic partner to build deep, fulfilling relationships. In fact, some of the happiest and most socially fulfilled people are those who cultivate strong friendships, community ties, and personal passions, rather than relying on one person to fulfill all their emotional needs. That's why so many who choose solitude later in life describe it as an awakening rather than a loss. They begin to reconnect with old friends. They join communities that align with their interests. They travel, explore, and engage with the world in a way they never could when their lives were centered around maintaining a relationship. And the best part? Every relationship they now choose to have is based on authenticity rather than obligation. It's time to challenge the outdated belief that solitude equals suffering. True suffering is living a life where you are constantly at war with yourself, compromising your happiness for the sake of maintaining an illusion. True suffering is feeling trapped, knowing deep down that you are sacrificing your mental well-being just to avoid an uncomfortable conversation or a temporary adjustment. But real peace? That's something you can never put a price on. So here's the real question. If you had the chance to experience a life without stress, without conflict, and without unnecessary emotional baggage, would you take it? And if peace is truly the greatest gift, then what comes next will completely change the way you see solitude. Because what if I told you that embracing this life doesn't just free you from emotional turmoil, it actually gives you the opportunity to grow in ways you never imagined? What if I told you that the greatest years of your life are still ahead of you? Let me show you why. Finding peace isn't just about removing stress, it's about creating space for something greater. And once you step into that space, something incredible happens. You realize that your life isn't winding down, it's opening up. Because peace is not the end of the road, it's the foundation for reinvention. But here's the real question. What will you do with that freedom? If you could redefine your future on your own terms, what would that look like? Now I want to hear from you. What was the most powerful moment of this video for you? What part of this conversation made you stop and reflect? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, because this is not just about me talking and you listening. This is about us building something together. Your perspective matters, and your experience can inspire someone else who's on this same journey. And more than that, if this message resonated with you, imagine how many others need to hear it. So take a moment now. Share this video with a friend, send it in that WhatsApp group, post it on Facebook. Sometimes a single idea can change everything for someone, and you might be the person who helps them see life in a new way. Now don't go anywhere, because what comes next is even more powerful. If you've ever wondered whether your best years are behind you or still ahead, stay with me, because the answer might just change the way you see your entire future. Reinvention without limits. Why your best years are still ahead of you. There is a dangerous myth that society loves to spread. The idea that growth has an expiration date, that once you reach a certain age, you are supposed to settle into a quiet existence, gradually withdrawing from the world, accepting routine and abandoning the idea of personal reinvention. But what if that entire narrative is a lie? What if the truth is that your most exciting, fulfilling, and transformative years are still ahead of you? The reality is that personal growth never stops unless you choose to stop. The human brain remains adaptable throughout life, capable of learning, evolving, and experiencing new levels of joy, even in later years. Neuroscientists at Stanford University found that people who actively pursue new experiences, whether through learning a skill, traveling, or engaging in social activities, experience greater cognitive function, reduced risk of dementia, and an overall increase in life satisfaction. In contrast, those who retreat into routine and isolation often face a steep decline in both mental and emotional well-being. So why do so many people believe that reinvention is only for the young? The answer is simple. Fear of change. Fear that stepping outside the familiar will be uncomfortable. Fear that trying something new will make them look foolish. Fear that it's too late to become someone different. But here's what no one tells you. Staying the same is far riskier than evolving. Because the moment you stop challenging yourself, the moment you stop seeking excitement, the moment you settle for monotony, you stop truly living. Now imagine the alternative. Imagine waking up every day with the freedom to decide exactly what your future looks like. You could start a new hobby, move to a different city, learn an instrument, write a book, or even begin a completely different career. You could explore the world, dive into passions that were put on hold for decades, or simply immerse yourself in learning just for the sake of expanding your mind. Nothing is off limits, because for the first time, you are no longer bound by the expectations of a relationship, the responsibilities of raising a family, or the pressure to follow a predetermined path. The greatest tragedy isn't growing older. It's believing that growing older means losing your sense of wonder. Look at the people who continue to thrive late in life. They are constantly evolving, constantly seeking, constantly learning. They are the ones who reject the idea that their best days are behind them, and instead embrace the mindset that every day is an opportunity to grow. And here's the most beautiful part. When you fully embrace solitude, you discover that growth isn't just about external experiences. It's also about deepening your relationship with yourself. For the first time, you have the space to reflect, to understand who you truly are, and to build a life that is completely aligned with your desires. No compromises, no limitations, just the pure, unfiltered experience of being you. So here's the question you need to ask yourself. If nothing was stopping you, if no one was holding you back, if you had unlimited freedom, what would you do with your life? Because the truth is, you do have that freedom, and what you do with it is entirely up to you. Now tell me, are you ready to embrace the greatest chapter of your life? Because the only thing standing between you and your next adventure is the belief that you deserve it. And you do. Now take a moment and really think, what would happen if you stopped just listening and started applying this to your life? What would change if you truly embraced the idea that your best years are still ahead? Most people watch a video, feel inspired for a few minutes, and then go back to their routines. But the ones who transform their lives, they take action. They make a decision. And that's exactly what I want for you. If this message resonated with you, don't just leave it here. Take the next step. Like this video to help it reach more people who need to hear this. Drop a comment and tell me, what's one thing you're ready to do differently starting today? And most importantly, if you want to keep growing, evolving, and unlocking new possibilities, make sure you're subscribed to this channel. Because this isn't just a place for inspiration, it's a space for real transformation. So hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and let's keep this journey going. Together we're breaking limits, rewriting the rules, and proving that it's never too late to become the person you were meant to be. Let's go.